What's going on, everybody? I wanted to go ahead and do a video on my Nissan Frontier. It's a second generation 2006 with the VQ40 6-cylinder engine and the automatic transmission. Now, I've owned this truck for 10.5 years, and I just rolled over 200,000 miles on the odometer, so I thought it'd be a good time to make a video of it and just kind of share my thoughts on why I like it, some of the issues that I've had with it. My goal is basically to help someone who might be looking at buying a used small pickup truck or midsize like the Nissan Frontier, and to kind of point out some of the issues that I've had and maybe give you some tips on what to check for so you can prevent yourself from having those issues with the pickup truck, and also to showcase some of the things that I like and whether I would buy this truck again if I was looking at buying another midsize pickup truck. Now, I primarily drive this truck to commute to and from work now. I don't really need a pickup truck, but it's fun to drive and it's very enjoyable. I'm a tall guy, I'm 6'4", and I have lots of headroom, and it's just very comfortable to drive. The seats are comfortable. So I'm going to go ahead and take you guys outside and show you around the front of the vehicle and talk about some of the issues that I've had with the vehicle. So stay tuned. Alright, so as you can see, here's my Nissan Frontier. Like I said, it's a 2006 with the VQ40 4.0 V6 engine, automatic transmission. You can usually get these, actually you can get them in either the V6 or the 4-cylinder. I got the V6 because it was just the most powerful mid-size pickup truck at the time. It had 265 horsepower and I believe 289 foot-pounds of torque for that year. Which was more than the Tacoma, and it was also more affordable. I got this at the time, it had 17,000 miles on it, and I bought it for, I believe, 16,500, and I bought it just 2 years used. So, like I said, I've had it for 10.5 years. It's been a very enjoyable truck. I've taken it on trips halfway across the country. I've hauled people's stuff that were moving, refrigerators, all kinds of household items with no issues. It's never broken down on me once, surprisingly. The only time that I almost had a breakdown, basically I had a coolant hose burst. This one right up here, there's a plastic fitting that goes onto this coolant hose, and it just failed, I don't know, about 50,000 miles ago, and I was driving along and noticed that my temperature rating was overheating, and pulled over immediately. And luckily I was by an auto parts store, bought some coolant, replaced that hose. I actually just bypassed this plastic piece altogether and just attached the hose, filled up my radiator with coolant, and made it home. So that was the only time that I was close to breaking down, but it doesn't even really count. So the one major thing I would check for if you buy one of these with the 4.0, the V6, and with the automatic transmission, then you want to make sure that your automatic transmission fluid and your coolant did not cross-contaminate together. That was a very big issue with these vehicles in those years. Basically what happens is the radiator that Nissan put in these things had a crack in the bottom reservoir that your automatic transmission fluid would flow through, because this acts as a coolant, as a part of the cooling process for your automatic transmission fluid, as well as a heating process. So it would run into the bottom tube of your radiator, and what would happen is that tank would crack, and your transmission fluid would mix with the coolant, and you develop what they would call a strawberry milkshake in your coolant reservoir up here in the mountains. And these bees are harassing me, but I'm not going to open this now because my engine is hot. But if you were to open up your coolant reservoir, you would see a strawberry milkshake in there if that was to happen to you. So that's one thing you want to check. You can also unscrew your radiator cap here and take a look at the fluid inside and see if there's any like oil residue, any indication of strawberry milkshake. If the fluid just looks abnormal, you can also check your automatic transmission fluid dipstick right down there, and just see if the fluid looks normal. If it looks like there's water in it or it's abnormal, I would do more investigation and just really make sure that there's no cross-contamination. Because what happens is your coolant will be pumped into your automatic transmission, the RE5, RO5A transmission in these things, and that will damage the seals. It'll damage the transmission control module, the computer. And if that happens, if you don't fix that immediately and get that fluid out with new fluid, it's game over for your transmission. So this did happen to me, but I was lucky enough to catch it very quickly. What I did is I bought a new radiator. This is a Denso radiator. I put that in and I did a complete transmission fluid flush. Put in some cheap Valvoline fluid, drove it around really hard for a couple thousand miles. I flushed it again and put in Nissan fluid just to make sure everything was out. And I've driven it that way for about 35,000 miles without any transmission slips. I have all gears and I'd consider it to be good to go. So that's one thing you can try if you buy one of these that has had the cross contamination issue, but you just really want to check for that. The other thing I did have, and this happened around, I believe 60, 70,000 miles, was I had the timing chain whine. Basically, these older models, like I said, 05 to 010-ish, what happened was the timing chain was too sharp, the design of it, and it would wear down on those timing chain tensioners or guides, and it would make kind of a whistling noise when you were running your engine and revving it up. Kind of sounded like a really cheap turbocharger, really. But luckily that was covered under warranty. They replaced the timing chain, they replaced the guides, and I've driven more than 100,000 miles after that, and the engine sounds awesome. It sounds great. I do oil changes every about 3,500 miles with just regular 530 Valvoline oil, and it's still purring really nicely. Idles smooth and quiet, just sounds really good. The other issue that you want to check for if you have an 05, 06 model is some of the drive shafts did not have your standard universal joints. They had what I think they call a Rosetta joint and also CV joints on it. So my center support bearing has worn out. There's some play in my drive shaft, and the only way to replace that now is actually to replace the drive shaft, because I don't know how to take those joints apart. It's not like a standard universal joint. So what I'm looking at doing is either getting a used drive shaft or having one custom made, which is going to be a lot cheaper than buying a brand new one from Nissan. So that's another thing I would check. Definitely check your oil, make sure that's all good to go. It looks normal. That's really it. Those are the only issues I've had. They did warranty a fuel level sensor replacement. I actually replaced that myself when my fuel level gauge was acting up, but I ended up taking it into Nissan and they said, oh, this is covered under warranty, so they replaced it again free of charge. So it was actually replaced twice. But that's another thing you can check. What it'll do is your fuel level gauge will just be inaccurate. Mine would just show that the fuel level was low, even though I had a full tank or half a tank. But just some minor things to check for. Brakes and tires, I've gone through, I think, 4 pairs of tires. I've had the Michelin LTX MS. I've had Yokohama Geolanders. And now I have the hand-cooked Dynapros. I think these have been my favorite, actually. Brakes, I've gone through several pairs. I usually use the Duralast Gold pads. I've never had to replace a brake caliper, or I have the same original rotors. I just use Duralast Gold brake pads. I use the same batteries, Duralast Gold. Original alternator. You might have seen, if you subscribe to my channel, I also have a Toyota FJ Cruiser, and I had to replace the Toyota alternator at 130,000 miles, but this is the original Nissan one. Spark plugs are platinum tipped in this engine, so they last, I believe, 100,000 miles. I'll usually change them at every 75,000. I think I'm on my 3rd pair, so you don't have to worry about changing those too frequently, which is nice, but they are a little bit pricey. Just make sure you use the NGKs or equivalent, OEM equivalent. One thing I really like about the truck is the tie-down system. I believe it was called the Utilitrack, but these cleats are movable on this track system, so you can move that tie-down point there all the way back, you've got, or you can move it on this back side as well as on the side over here. So that's proven to be very useful. You can also utilize the track in the bed and move those cleats there as well. It's just really useful as opposed to having the traditional tie down points. So if you can get the Utilitrack system, definitely look at it. As long as you evenly distribute the weight between each one. I think it's something like 200 pounds per bar, you know. So if you mount it, if you're mounting a fridge or something like that, you're going to want to utilize all 3 or 4 bars, you know, utilize the ones on the bottom as well, 4 mounting points, so that you can evenly distribute the weight. But as long as you do that, then there's no problems. So I believe it does come with the standard mounting points too that you would see in traditional trucks. That's what these little plastic covers are here. I've been meaning to buy those D-rings or the mounting rings to put in there, so I have those as well, but just haven't gotten around to it. Another thing I really like is the storage system underneath the back seats. This is the crew cab, but you can see the netting here. Yeah, this is all under all of the back seats. So I've got jumper cables, tie downs, you know, just tools and stuff like that you can mount. So that's really useful. Interior, it's pretty basic. It hasn't been changed much. So, you know, no surprises there. Sorry if my vehicle's dirty, but you know, this is real life. I'm not cleaning it just for this video or anything like that, but it's a basic interior, cloth interior. I did go with seat covers. Eventually, you know, after 10 years, there were little spots that were wearing on the seat where I would get in and out. So I think it just looks a little better with the seat covers. I put in an aftermarket radio, pretty basic stuff. But overall, I've been really happy. There is a part where I damaged the plastic up here on the dashboard. This piece here, when I was replacing the radio and I pulled it out, there's some clips under here, and I ended up not unclipping them right, so it cracked this part. You can buy this face piece here, which I'm going to do. I just haven't gotten around to it. Looks ugly, I know. But yeah, power windows, power door locks. I'm very happy. So if I was to buy another small or mid-sized pickup truck, would I go with the Nissan Frontier again? Was it worth my money? I would say absolutely yes. Aside from a few general problems, if you do the maintenance on these, keep up with maintenance, and just it's a blast to drive. It's very powerful. There's very few engines that sound like the VQ40. It just sounds really good when running. Plenty of power as long as you don't have to tow anything over like 6,000 pounds. Or the max towing rating is 6,500 pounds. But I don't really use it to tow. So if you're a bigger guy or you just want a nice truck, I definitely recommend looking at the Nissan Frontiers, especially the newer models, because you can get them for so much cheaper than the Tacomas or the Colorado even on some. It's just a really good value. Overall, I'm really happy with it. So I hope this video helped you. If you have any questions, definitely leave a comment and I'll try to get back to you. So take care, guys. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, comment if you have any questions, and I'll see you on the next video.